pretty fiery, wasn't it? Pretty feisty, pretty ferocious, I would suggest, at times. That real big dividing line in this leadership contest on tax and the economy. Rishi Sunak essentially saying that Liz Truss plans are irresponsible, that they will add massively to the national debt, which will get passed on to our children and grandchildren, that Britain really cannot afford tax cuts at this time. It will fuel inflation. Liz Truss' argument is that the pandemic was a once-in-a-100-year event and that it is sensible at this time to spread that debt out and to give people a bit of extra money in their pocket through tax cuts. That is the real big divide, but it is with, as I say, the ferocity, particularly that Rishi Sunak was making that case last night, that really sparked up the debate. Many, though, think that the former Chancellor went too far in talking over Liz Truss, but it is a sign, I think, of this real battle now between the candidates to try and convince voters, with only, frankly, a week or so before they start receiving those ballots, so they get to decide which one they will back, not just to be, of course, Conservative leader, but the next Prime Minister. Well, Eamon, I gauged the reaction of some senior cabinet ministers last night on either side of this debate about who they thought had come out best.
I think we had a really good debate. Liz finally got a bit of a word in, but nevertheless, it was, an opportunity to see clear differences between the candidates, because actually a lot they agree on the outcomes they want, to improve the prosperity of this country and for households and for families.
Look, I thought it was a great rambunctious debate, although at the end I think it showed the respect that both candidates had for each other. But on the central argument, how do we steer the country through this global fight against inflation, deal with the cost of living pressures, getting inflation down, and then get the investment into the economy that we need, and then take the tax cuts at the time when it's responsible and credible. I thought that Rishi Sunak won that hands down.
I thought Liz Truss did a fantastic job yet again in the debates, putting forward that positive vision for a low tax, high growth economy that's going to mean that our fantastic ceramics sector, but also those other type of digital technologies companies that we have here in Stoke-on-Trent are going to thrive, as well as making sure that those people who work really hard keep more of their hard-earned money in their pocket at a time when we're seeing obviously energy rises and fuel prices increasing.
But just to give you a sign of the blue-on-blue action, the Conservatives attacking the Conservatives at the moment, Therese Coffey there, the Work and Pension Secretary, saying that she thought that Rishi Sunak was mansplaining last night in the attacks that he had on Liz Truss. But it wasn't just on tax and the economy. As you saw, they fell out and they argued on China as well. And there was that moment, wasn't there, where essentially Liz accused Rishi Sunak of Project Fear, and he turned around and said, well, at the end of the day, you campaigned for Remain and Project Fear in the referendum. I mean, that's pretty personal, pretty bitter stuff to a large degree, though they both also essentially abandoned Boris Johnson, suggesting that he would play no future role in the government if either one of them became Prime Minister. In the end, what did the public think of it? Well, there was a Snap opinion poll that essentially said it was a score draw in the end between Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, though Liz Truss did end up a little higher amongst Conservative voters, and ultimately at the end of the day, those are the ones that matter. But is a score draw a good result for Liz Truss? I would suggest it is. If we are to believe the opinion polls and that Rishi Sunak is behind, he needed a game changer last night. I'm not entirely sure he had one, and that means Liz Truss probably came out on top. What do the audience who were actually in the room think of all of this? Again, I caught up with a few of them afterwards to gauge their views.
I went in kind of supporting Rishi because obviously I think he was a lot more prominent within the Boris Johnson era. But I think Liz did a lot better than I expected it to be.
It was lively, it was more entertaining than I thought it would be, and it was very informative, and I thought they got the points over.
Obviously they both seem to have quite a lot of long-term plans in place, which was quite interesting to hear. I didn't really hear much about short-term, which is what I was interested in, to be honest. But no, as an overall, it was quite interesting.
So no game changer for Rishi Sunak last night. Can he do more? Because I say that, there's another debate tonight. There's another one later on this week. It's going to carry on for weeks and weeks and weeks over the summer. But as I say, Conservative members start receiving the ballots at the start of next week. Many of them will have already made up their minds.